Chapter 329, Claw Marks. Backland Bridge Area, Braveheart's Bar. Klein pressed down the cap on his head, carefully protecting the wallet in the inside pocket of his grayish-blue worker's jacket. He walked around the customers who were surrounding the boxing ring and headed for the bar. On the way, he looked around and didn't see the black market arms dealer, Kaspars Kalinin. He's either playing cards or playing billiards. Klein nodded to himself, sat down at the bar and said to the bartender, half and half. He had seen someone drink this type of alcoholic beverage the last time, and he felt that it likely suited his palate. At least it's better than pure malt beer. Klein thought to himself. The bartender raised his head and glanced at him. Which two alcohols do you want mixed? Different choices, different prices. The typical one will do. The last time he saw someone drink it, the person had used alcohol of the worst quality. The whole glass of half and half was only worth 2.5 pence. 4.5 pence. The bartender watched as Klein arranged the brass coins on the bar and then went back to mixing. He said in passing, "You here for Kaspars. He's not here anymore. His business has been snatched." Huh, Klein didn't expect such an answer. Before the bartender could reply, a man with a protruded mouth next to him laughed and said, "Yes, we've chased Kaspars away." "Heh, how can a lame old man like him do such a business? If you have anything you need, feel free to come to us. Find our boss." A gang war. Klein subconsciously came up with this idea, wanting to reject the man's suggestion. However, he soon thought of another possibility. Could it be that the Rose School of Thought has deliberately sought out a gang to suppress Kaspars, so as to force Merrick and Miss Sharon to jump into a trap? Yes, it's quite possible. Kaspars had been working here as a black market arms dealer for a long time. He's definitely not someone who can be chased away just like that. A while ago, because of the series of murders, the atmosphere in the whole of Backland was rather tense, and the Rose School of Thought or other hidden factions wouldn't dare to recklessly kill and use spirit mediumship on Merrick and Miss Sharon, even if they found them. This would result in a lot of bloodshed, and since they obviously only have a few suspects and are unable to confirm anyone else having a way to contact Miss Sharon and Merrick for the time being. Klein swallowed the words he was about to say and asked instead, "Can I first get a quote before deciding whether to purchase?" He planned to observe the faction made up of ordinary people who had taken over Braveheart's Bar's black market. If he discovered any problems, then he could use them as a favor to give to Kaspars, Sharon, and Merrick. In any case, Klein didn't want any conflict. He only planned on observing via normal processes, so there was no risk. Yes, the only requirement is. The man made a zipping motion with his hand in front of his protruding mouth. No problem. As soon as Klein answered, he saw the half and half in front of him, and the copper coins had been taken away by the bartender. Without any intention of wasting it, he tipped his head and drank it. His brows gradually furrowed. It's not what I thought it would be. The taste of the spirit is too heavy, the grape flavors are too mild. Klein put down his glass and followed the man to the third billiard room where Kaspars used to stay in. When he was about to reach the door, he suddenly thought of something. As someone who doesn't know much, even I can guess that this is a trap. I wonder if Miss Sharon and Merrick, who have been hunted for so long, know about it. They definitely wouldn't appear. However, Kaspars knows more than one Beyonder. He has connections with several different circles of Beyonders, and he might be able to get other helpers. That would complicate things. At that moment, the man with the protruding mouth stopped at the doorway of the billiard room, and the distracted Klein almost bumped into him. He pointed inside and said, "Don't talk nonsense later. Our boss doesn't have a good temper." Everyone in the Backland Bridge area and East Borough knows this. All right, Klein nodded. Satisfied, the man with the protruding mouth turned and pushed open the billiard room's door. As the door opened, Klein saw a figure hanging in the air, gently swaying. It was a burly man with a full beard. There was a rope tied around his neck, a rope that was tied in a dead knot. His feet were off the ground, the tip of his tongue was protruding out, and his face was purple. He wore a contorted expression. "Boss," the man with the protruding mouth cried out in disbelief. As soon as the tension in Backland's atmosphere disappears, someone takes action. Klein tilted his head and glanced at the subordinate. He then solemnly drew a triangular sacred emblem on his chest. May he find peace with God. I hope his temper is cured as a result. The man with the protruded mouth didn't even hear what he said. He suddenly shouted, "Boss! Murder! Boss is dead!" Klein took 2 steps back as a result of the loud and shrill voice, and he also activated his spirit vision to take a look inside the room. There was nothing special other than the scattered billiard balls all over the place. Did a Beyonder from Kaspar's do it? What would the faction who planted the trap do, if there was actually such a trap? Klein quietly moved away and slunk away into the crowd when the other gang members swarmed over. He glanced at the kitchen of the Bravehearts bar and, with some thought, went over and familiarly passed through to the back door. As soon as he pushed open the not-so-heavy wooden door, Klein felt a cold wind blowing against him which caused him to shiver. And amidst the cold wind was the faint smell of blood. He listened for a moment but saw nothing. He took out his penny and flicked it up. The landing sound was cut off by the wind, and Klein looked down at the copper penny in his palm, confirming that it was heads. Putting the coin away, he carefully walked forward, heading in the direction that his spiritual perception told him to. He walked to a dark corner where there wasn't any illumination from the street lamps. The smell of blood suddenly became stronger. With the help of the weak moonlight that penetrated through the clouds, Klein almost gasped when he saw what was in front of him. The floor here was littered with bloody thighs, calves, boots, ribs, a heart, arms, eyeballs, and other human parts. On the wall hung a portion of pale red intestines. The background was a large patch of bright red with milky white markings. Seeing this, Klein felt like he was looking at a slaughterhouse specially prepared for humans. Is the murderer afraid that the Nighthawks, mandated punishers, and the others are too idle? This is so exaggerated that the police would immediately transfer the case to them. Klein muttered in his mind to resist the discomfort caused by the scene. He walked around the blood and approached the opposite wall. To his surprise, there were quite a few deep scratches. It was like a thick and sharp claw that forcefully scratched out a mark. The claw is similar to the one the devil dog had after its transformation. Could it be that there's another one? Could it not be dead yet? No, I know what's going on. Klein suddenly came to a realization. The deceased must be the Beyonder who killed the bar's gang leader. He was finished off by the faction who had set the trap. According to Little Sun's description, I've always suspected that the faction is the Rose School of Thought because they grasp the prisoner pathway, which is also the mutant pathway. And one type of mutant was the werewolf. This was in line with the traces of the crime scene before him. It also indirectly proves that Miss Sharon and Merrick are defectors of the Rose School of Thought. Klein calmly retreated out of the scene, one step at a time. During this process, he confirmed that there weren't any Beyonder characteristics present. Of course, it was possible that it hadn't appeared yet. Then he turned and walked towards another street, intending to get someone to inform the police, lest such a scene frighten the commoners and make them suspect that Backlund had been infiltrated by some ferocious beast. Because he didn't want to get into trouble over greed, Klein didn't wait for the possibility of a Beyonder characteristic appearing. Just as he reached the end of the alley, he suddenly saw a brown carriage slowly approaching in the night. The carriage didn't continue to move forward like the other carriages. Instead, it stopped right in front of Klein. Klein narrowed his eyes as he prepared to do battle. However, whether it was his spirituality intuition as a seer or the battle sense of a clown, neither of them gave him a warning. At this moment, the window of the carriage was opened, revealing a pale face which wore a hint of madness to it. Its brown eyes seemed to conceal deep malice. Merrick. Klein recognized him. It was Merrick, Miss Sharon's companion who controlled zombies. He was only wearing a white shirt and a black vest, and he didn't seem to be afraid of the cold at all. He gestured for Klein to board the carriage. For a moment, Klein hesitated, wanting to use his spirit pendulum to divine right there on the spot. At this moment, a figure appeared behind Merrick. She wore a complex black regal dress and a small, soft hat. It was the blonde Miss Sharon with blue eyes. She can easily do me harm if she wants to. She can directly come out from the wall behind me. Klein thought for a moment, then he deliberately took 2 steps forward casually. He opened the carriage door and took note of it. After he sat down, the carriage began to move slowly. It was unknown where its destination was. "Why did you come here?" Sharon asked simply. Klein answered frankly, "I wanted to contact the both of you and ask if you have any books on mysticism. It would be best if they went in depth. As you know, I lack such knowledge." Merrick continued looking over with malice-filled eyes as he said in a slightly hoarse and low voice, "We do have a lot of knowledge regarding mysticism, such as Shaman King Klarman's Book of Secrets, but what can you use to trade for it?" Shaman King, which pathway and sequence is that? As these thoughts flashed past his mind, Klein deliberated his tone and said, "I can trade for it with gold pounds. Or do you need anything else?" The pale but exquisite-looking Sharon looked at him and replied stoically, "Help. We'll use your help as barter."